Professionals Rockingham now for 12 years. I started as the receptionist and typing PCRs, and then somehow wangled my way in to be the PA for the principal, and before I knew it, I'd bought his business. So yeah, I absolutely love it. I'm very passionate about it, and I'm going to now switch to what makes us really awesome, which is our property management team. We have grown from 300 to 635 properties now under management in the last 3 years, and so our team has grown with us. As you can see from the airbrushed version of me, it starts with me, and then we go to Sue, who's my PA, and she's also Bernie's wife. Without her, I would not be what I am. We then go through our receptionist, our director of first impressions, who's probably one of the most important people in our business because everybody sees her first. Then we have 7 portfolio managers: Sandy, Leslie, Mandy, Jackie, Jess, Talia and Monica. They each manage no more than 100 properties, and then we have a dedicated leasing consultant in Jess, and we have an admin assistant who is full-time supporting the trust accounting and the property managers. She pays our contractors, and unlike most companies, we actually pay our contractors every week. So that is our team, and I love them all. So what do property managers do? Our role is varied, and I think people underestimate exactly what is involved in property management. We start off with appraising the property, and that's my job. I go out and tell people roughly what I think they'll get for the property, and it's a bit like sales. It's not an exact science. So we have to work with what the market is doing and tell people what we think they will get for their property and how they can best market it. We then, once we have listed the property, we have to ensure compliancy. So there are a number of things that properties need to do in order to be meeting the Residential Tenancies Act. The blinds need to have cords that are tied. They're not allowed to be lower than 1.6 metres. They must meet smoke alarm and electrical compliance as well. So they must have hardwired smoke alarms outside the bedroom areas. They're not allowed to be more than 10 years old. They must have 2 RCDs, one for power and one for lights and one for power points. They also need to be compliant with locks, so they need to have a deadlock on the front door. They need to have window locks on all the windows or security screens. Security screens or roller shutters will trump window locks. They also need a deadlock on the front door, and they must have a light on the outside that can be switched on from the inside, because somebody once fell over out the front of a property and the landlord was sued. So now they've changed that legislation. So as part of our role, we need to be up to date with legislation and knowing what is required from a property manager, from a rental property. Once we've actually made sure the property is compliant, we then start to advertise it. We take professional photography. We advertise on 12 different websites, all the major portals. Then we've got to view it, so we organise viewings. We offer after-hours viewings and weekend viewings as well. Then we process the applications. We check to see if the tenant has been a good performing tenant in the past, check their employment history, their rental history, find out as much about them. We also do what Cherry does with our BNI people, and that is we check them on Facebook to see whether they've got any bad secrets on their Facebook page that might make us not want to have them as our tenants. Then we ask them to pay their bond. We've got to manage their bond. It's got to be held by the bond administrator, so we have to send that off, manage that as well. Then we sign up the tenant, so then we go through a process where we explain to the tenant exactly what is involved in renting through Professionals Rockingham, what's expected of them and what they need to do in order to maintain their tenancy. Then throughout we do a PCR, which is a property condition report. Now, property condition report is probably up to 50 or 60 pages. It's a detailed report of the condition of the property prior to the tenant moving in. It's probably the most important document of the tenancy, and we use it at the end of the tenancy to ensure that the property is returned to the same condition as when the tenant went in at the beginning. The majority of tenants will tell us that the property is in better condition than it was when they moved in. It's often not, but everybody believes that it is. But that is probably the most important document, and we will also have accompanying that up to 1,200 photos. So we photograph everything, including inside the oven, inside the cupboards, everything, so that there's a complete detailed picture of what the property was like. We also manage maintenance. So if a property manager attends a property at a routine inspection, she'll be looking out for things like dripping taps, broken door handles, anything that might need regular maintenance. Tenants often don't realise that the property needs maintenance and things will slip. So it's important that the property manager is there on a regular basis. We go 4 times a year to ensure that the property is well maintained. So when we hand the property back to the owner, at the end of the time that we've managed it, it's worth the same money, if not more, than it was when we took it on. We also manage, obviously, rent, and we make sure that we receipt the rent and chase them for arrears if they're not paying their rent. We then also manage the lease and the ATM renewals. It's important that a tenant stays in a fixed lease rather than going into a periodic lease, so it's important that we manage those leases and the lease renewals throughout the process. Also, the authority to manage is the agreement between myself, the company and the landlord. We need to make sure that we're on top of those and that we're constantly renewing those as well. Your final bond is at the end of the tenancy when we come back and ensure that the property is in the same condition or not better at the end of the tenancy. Insurance claims, in the event that a fence goes down or something happens, the washing machine overflows or the roof falls in, we need to manage those insurance claims for our landlords. And in the event that we do have to go to court, we represent our owners in court as well. So it's not as simple as everybody thinks. Right, so why choose us? What makes Professionals Rockingham different? Everybody does all of those things as property managers, or we hope they do. But what makes us different, and why do people choose us over the other agencies? One of the reasons is that I'm one of the owners and directors of Professionals Rockingham. I'm very passionate about what I do. I'm a big believer in building relationships and making sure that we are working with people. People are my priority, and I think that makes a difference. We have a dedicated leasing consultant offering after-hours viewings and weekends. So she works 3 nights till 6 o'clock and also weekends, so we can incorporate viewing times for people that might not necessarily be able to make it between 9 and 5. We also have an online booking system, so people can book appointments after hours and on weekends when it suits them. So if you've ever booked an appointment with your doctor or your dentist or your beautician, where you can go online and say, yeah, I want to view a property, we can actually advertise our times and people can choose a time that suits them. Between us, we have, Mr. Point, property managers for us have no more than 100 properties each. As I mentioned, that we've got 635 properties currently, and we have 7 portfolio managers. So we don't overload our property managers. We make sure that they have an amount of properties that they can manage comfortably, so that in the event that somebody's away or sick, we can also accommodate looking after those properties. Between us, we have over 100 years of experience. There's a lot of agencies that have a lot of people with less than a year experience. The turnover in property management is just generally less than 1 year, and some of our property managers have been around for 12 and 14 years. So another thing that we do is our routine inspections are date stamped and time stamped. There's a bit of a negative thing out in the industry that sometimes routine inspections don't happen, that people use old reports. We ensure that our reports are done, that our routine inspections are done. Our property managers have got the time to do them, and we make sure that we date stamp and time stamp them, so when we post them out or email them out to our clients, they can see when they were done, and they have current photos in them as well. We make sure that we have processes and procedures in place for every facet of property management. As you could see from the list before, and that was by no means comprehensive, it's a very involved job. So it's very important that we have checklists for everything that we do. I'm a big believer in be a snail, leave a trail, and having procedures for everything. I'm a Virgo, everything needs to be done in order. So I've kind of introduced that into my team. Everybody sings from the same songbook, everybody does the same thing, so that if somebody's away, somebody can just pick up where they left off and know exactly where they're at. What makes us different from a lot of the other agencies, we actually check those procedures and checklists. We have KPI meetings, and all our staff are given bonuses based on reaching their KPIs, and I get very excited when they reach 100%, because not only does it mean that they're doing their job, but they're actually doing it really well. So 100% is what we aim for every month. We make sure that our emails and phone calls are returned the same day or the next day. A big bugbear in the industry for us as property managers is communication. So often when I go and speak to landlords, they tell me that their previous agent never spoke to them, they didn't ring them, they didn't call them. The only time they ever heard from them was when something went wrong. So we're very big on making sure that we're communicating with our owners, with our tenants and with our contractors on a regular basis. And if a phone call or an email comes in, we ensure that it's returned the same day or the next day. Training is a big thing in our industry, and within the industry generally there is 10 hours of compulsory training a year. So we get 1 point for every hour of training we do, and we have to do 10 hours. My staff do that 10 hours plus they do an extra 2 pieces of training a month. Now it might be something like having someone like Lewis come in and talk to us about meth, or it might be about having someone come in and talk to us about depreciation, or it might be a webinar that the girls have done. But we make sure that they all do 2 pieces of training a month, just so that I know that their skills are up to date, they feel valued, and they stay with us because they know that they're getting good training and education as property managers. We value our staff, we value our tenants, we value our owners, and we value our contractors. And I think that's one of the things that makes us stand aside from a lot of our competition. We don't put people down. We value everybody the same. Whether you're the CEO or the janitor, you're just as important to me. And I think it's important that we build good quality relationships with everybody and value everybody. We have a really low staff turnover, and I think that's because we look after our people. All our staff, our property managers, have a car which they can use for their own use as well. They're all paid well, they all get rostered days off. If somebody comes and tells me, like Mandy did yesterday afternoon, that she wants to leave half an hour early because she's going to a hotel and they want to check in early, that's fine with me, because I know if on a Saturday morning when I need a property to be viewed, Mandy will say, yep, no worries, I'll go and do it for you, Martina. So that's kind of we give and take, and they know that I'll look after them, and so they look after me. So you give and you get, and it's a bit like B&I, the giver's gain rule. We also use a debt collection service called Barclays, which not a lot of companies use. Barclays debt collection service gives us the ability to send emails, texts and letters from a debt collector. So because we're about, how much have I got left? Okay. It means that we can basically send messages from a debt collection agency, and we can check an extra 2 national tenancy databases. Most companies will only check 1 or 2 national tenancy databases, but we check 4 across Australia and New Zealand to see if tenants have been poor performing tenants. We give back to the community locally, nationally, internationally. We support the Crew and Soul Soup Kitchen locally. I used to be a youth worker, so I'm big on the homeless and working with the homeless. Nationally, we support breast cancer, and we've donated $3.2 million towards national breast cancer research since 2003. And internationally, we support the Thank You Project. So we give all of our tenants a bottle of thank you water. It's a bit quirky because it says thank you. At every routine inspection, they get that bottle of thank you water and a handwritten card saying thank you for allowing us to come into your home. We recognise that it's their home. And you have a 100% satisfaction guarantee with us. If you do refer somebody to us, if they're not 100% happy, they can ring me anytime. I give my number to all our owners, all our contractors and all of our tenants. And there's just one more quick one. So if you know someone who's privately managing an investment property or is not currently happy with the level of service they are receiving from their current agent, we can help them. We've grown from 300 to 635 now, properties under management in just over 3 years. Our current goal is to reach 700 properties by the end of 2018.